One, two, one, two, one, two.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You already know how we do this thing. Between the hours of 6 to 8 every Sunday, we bring you to welcome. We welcome you to Northwest Austin Council, where it's just West Side people talking West Side things because there's a whole lot always going on West Side. So there's various ways you can interact with us. We got the Facebook, we got the YouTube, and we got the Zoom. If you on the Facebook or you on that YouTube, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, share the broadcast. And for all of those that are able to do so, comment because we see the comments and we can add them directly to the show. That's how you can interact with us, unless you want to come on the show. You know what I mean? Because we want people to talk about the problems in their community too, because it's a lot of them. And hopefully we can devise some solutions while we on this show. So today we rating on Richard Boykin. If y'all don't know who that is, that's the former first district commissioner. He's also currently running for Cook County Board President.
That's right.
And looking forward to having a conversation with him. We don't really too heavily dig into the politics, so this just really going to be, see where he at, you know what I mean, on certain things, see what, how he responds to certain questions and things like that. You know what I mean? But you know how these political types can be, man. They can be a little bit too political. But we're going to try to get away from that politics. We're going to try to get to the person because that's what we like to do. We want to talk to you and not your politics. As I always say, when I started out, man, I just toss it right to Steve. I say, what's up, Steve? What you got going on, man?
Oh, we got to do it for the people in the neighborhood. I was just talking to Ella Houston, telling her that Richard Boykin would be on. She said, hey, they out there, we got to get the meals together for the kids. So we understand that. All right. But first and foremost, I want to say people need to be aware of what's going on in Chicago. We're talking, what are they saying? New curfews for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had an opportunity to be with the mayor Friday. She had a press conference over at the old Legler Library on Pulaski Madison, and quite a few people were in there. She spoke of the changing curfew law that she may implement and how it may or may not affect the young people in the community. But something has to change. I don't know if the curfew is quite it, but something has to change. Also had an opportunity to meet with Deputy Chief Cato, Ernest Cato, community guy, former commander in the 15th district, former resident of K-Town, and had a pretty good conversation with him about some of the things that's going on. But hopefully we'll be working with him soon as chief of police if things go right. Pretty well-known guy, pretty good guy to know. What else we got going on, DeAndre?
Well, we just came from a fabulous fish fry, right?
Right.
Right? We're supporting the Peacemakers. There was a fundraiser going on over on 900 block of Lockwood, where the block club president is Miss Edie Jacobs. She is a part of the Peacemakers, as well as a friend to the organization. You know what I mean? Family, not even a friend, family to the organization.
Miss Jacobs is definitely family for sure.
She does this get to work program where she's able to help a bunch of individuals that's looking for jobs get assistance with finding those jobs and transportation to and from them as well. So for those people that find it difficult to find any work, you tap right in with Miss Jacobs and she got you.
I got you. That's Ella.
She got you. So we just came from Fish Fry supporting the movement over there with the Peacemakers and Miss Jacobs. And it was good. Everything was good.
Quite a few people showed out. We saw former Alderman Percy Giles was out, which is Minister Giles now. He was out over there for a little bit. Who's a law enforcement officer? Was he from 11 to 15?
I got that later than that. I ain't seen nobody in law enforcement.
Yeah, he was out. He might have been from 11 or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
With Velda.
Excuse me. If they did not stop by, tell them to rush over because it is good.
Oh, yeah. No, it's over now. It was only going from 1 to 6, so it's over.
Yeah.
But that was the first of many, though. They'll have another one.
Yeah, we just had one of the community residents say that the fish fry food was very good.
Yeah, it was. I agree, too.
Absolutely.
and I'm a connoisseur and not cook, so I definitely always have an opinion about people's food. It was good.
That's good. That's good. So, what do you want to dive into before Commissioner Boykin show up? We got anybody in the audience want to speak out, say what you got to say? Anything that's hot topic? I think politically, that's the hot
Cut
topic.
the air off?
Probably crank it down a little bit.
No, I'm saying you cut it off. Oh, don't feel like it's on. Okay.
What'd you say there, Miss Cora?
I said, hey, Uncle.
Who was that? Oh, hey, Tosh. I thought it was. Hey, I just talked to your sister. She getting ready to get on. She was telling me she went to school with Cam. What's it, Buckner?
Cam Buckner.
Yeah, he's supposed to be
Oh,
running.
yeah, Cam.
Mm-hmm.
Cam running for mayor, yeah.
That's right. What you been up to? What you know good? Hmm?
Oh, no, we were just talking about that, too, with the curfew. And you go working for Chicago Public Schools, for us, the first thing, anybody that works in the school system is saying, this is what this is the behavior we observe in the field. Like that. So the city is just getting a taste of what we are up against on a day-to-day basis, any given day of a week in the building. So this is how the kids are behaving in the building, and now they're taking it out to the street.
Wow.
And so one of the things that I've been noticing this type of behavior, I want to say since about 2013, 2012, no, 2013. Hello?
Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
Hello?
I got you. Go ahead, Tosh.
Hello?
Yeah, okay, go ahead. I got you.
Yeah, so if I've been observing behavior like this, what the city is seeing the past few weeks, and other people who work for CPS will tell us, we've been seeing stuff like this since like 2013. And if you do the math of the kids.
Hold on a second. Hold on, Tasha.
Right.
Wait a minute. One second. Go ahead, Alan. What was that? Can you hear me?
I can't hear it.
You can't hear anything?
There's no reason why she can't hear it.
Yeah. You should be able to.
I can't hear you. Maybe.
We got a speaker. That's somebody speaking. Can you hear now? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Tosh.
Saying that if you add the age range up and kids from 2013, and if they were between 14 and 18 at that time, and you just do the math of each school year, it equates to the ages of these young adults currently, as well as the teenagers in the age band. And so a lot of time with the schools, they changed the code of conduct, so you can't suspend kids anymore. So the kids know they can't get suspended, and there are very little penalties for them in terms of their conduct and behavior. They do restorative justice. They try to do conflict resolution and things like that. At some point that was working, but it wasn't adopted citywide. It was like this school practiced it or that school practiced it. But one of the things me and my colleagues have been discussing is that the curfew is one thing, but they need to get to the parents. So if you think logistically, people are like arrest them, but it's out by the 400. That's been the report every time, like every week. 400 teenagers are fighting, 400 kids downtown. You have to think logistically. Police have to round them up, then they have to process and book them. That's a lot of paperwork. Then they have to go to court for
everybody. Not doing all that.
They process and book. Then that will overwhelm the courts and things of that nature.
Oh, they're not doing all of that. That ain't happening.
I think that's something they're grappling with on the law enforcement side as well. So we have to come together, and the one thing that works is to get to the parents. So if they start issuing fines out to these parents, that's going to curb a lot of the stuff. But
I gotta ask, how though, when we know that the majority of these teens and even young adults are probably coming from single parent mother households, and that mom has to work and all this other stuff. And that's all, and because that's always going to come up immediately when you're talking about whether it's finding a parent, levying whatever penalties you want as a result of what their child is doing. Somebody will make the argument, well, how can we do that when we know that there's no fathers in the home? These are single parent homes, usually mother led. Grandmas are probably, if they're not younger, a lot of them younger now, but so if they're not 40 odd years old, still in the clubs, they're older, 60, 70, 80, where I can't do it. So like how do we how do we proceed with that then?
Reply. Anybody?
Yeah, that's one of the arguments too that we were discussing. Again, with the colleagues, that's one of the things that we've been discussing as well.
Yeah.
I personally, I've been talking to my kids every single week, every single day, day in and day out. I've been having I work with 10, 11, and 12th grade. So I've been working with my students, having conversations with them before I even get into instruction to make sure, like, as young people, you're making the right decisions. I hope that none of you are involved. A lot of them are like, they're not, because they don't want to suffer any harm or consequences going into those clubs.
Right.
So the ones that I've been personally working with, that's another thing, just getting some mentors in these buildings.
Yeah.
I know schools have them, but they need to do a little bit, there needs to be a little more accountability, counseling. These kids need counseling because they've suffered trauma. They've suffered a lot of loss.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that counseling and work around. Hey, Steve, I can't hear anything. I have no sound.
Shit, tell her to leave and come back in.
Hey, Ella.
No, she can't hear you, so just text her. Just tell her, and so kick her out
Go ahead.
and just tell her to come back in. Because that's on her end, not ours.
Right.
Yeah, Steve. I can't hear anything.
Hold on.
I have no sound. Why? Audio. Click on audio.
Go back. Try back in. Log in.
Tell her, leave out and come back in and see if that works. Because we can hear her.
We hear you though.
So I get, because prior to the pandemic, 2 years prior to the pandemic, so 2018 and 19, I myself substitute taught at Austin High School, and I'm familiar with all of these things that you're speaking about. Where you say they had BAM, they had WOW, they had IMVC right on campus. But I will say, like, the biggest. Okay, so I graduated in 2005, right? And I went to Austin High School. But when I was there, we had, so much more resources. You know what I mean? Where we had ROTC, we had a functioning swimming pool. Swimming pool still there. It's whatever. So we had swimming. We had bowling. You had dance. You had track and field. Football, basketball. Amongst other things. You had your nerds that was playing with Pokemon cards. You had the whole you dig. And I went to that school, and they have nothing now. They got basketball, and the basketball, not even worth being counted. They don't even have enough players for the football. But beyond that, and in cheerleading, beyond that, they have nothing else. And the one thing that always puzzles me, that I constantly have to ask, America continues to get richer. As the years progress, America gets richer because the wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few. We understand that. But these people are uber rich, but their money is coming from us. So that means that we are getting richer as America's getting richer. But in our neighborhoods, the schools are getting poorer. I don't understand how that adds up. I can't for the life of me see how 15 years ago I had more resources in my community and for the schools than I have now when America has gotten richer. Like, I don't understand that part.
Anybody out there got any comments about what DeAndre's saying?
I mean, and even to that point, like with social workers, we had social workers back then. I still remember my social worker.
Right, the resources have dwindled over the years, as well as the participation dwindled as well.
Could be,
and
but
so making it like, for example, Barack Obama made all the city colleges free for every CPS student.
Facts.
And starting the summer of their sophomore year, they are qualified to take one free college class dual enrollment at any of the city colleges. We're having such a hard time getting young people to understand they could get one free college class themselves starting summer and sophomore year, that by the time they're senior, they could graduate with 7 city college classes completed, which is half an associate.
Wow.
So we're having recruited students in that. So there's a disconnect that I've been seeing the past year or so with students in terms of trying to talk. Part of it, I don't know if it's because of the internet world where they're seeing people making it or having multiple lines of income, and there's a disconnect where they are not making the connection of like, well, college is a viable choice. Let me get a trade even. They're not even thinking trade or getting a deal, which is I don't know.
Go ahead. Gotta mute yourselves if you got a lot of noise, guys. Okay, go ahead. Continue, Tosh. Tosh, you there?
Oh yeah. So I was saying, the only thing that I know has been working is trying to mentor, talk to them, get them early, like 7th and 8th grade. Explain to them what opportunities are, talk to them about financial literacy. It's been very difficult. But these young people, I'm just concerned with like what the response will be through CPS, the principals, the administrators. I haven't seen any response in terms of them coming, because those are our students out there. The teenagers.
That's a good point.
Those are our students.
I'll say this too. One of the things that I realized that a lot of principals don't do is they aren't involved in the surrounding community enough. As in, like, they don't work like with law enforcement and the elected officials and things like. And I think it's incumbent on them to build those relationships that are necessary for the resources that they need for the school. And even going as far as if you connect with certain organizations, then what certain resources are. So if certain children are affected in certain ways, then exactly what to point them to too. And I do think more principals could be a lot more involved in the community in that way, because they have a voice and they are stakeholders so long as they're shepherding our children. And I haven't seen enough of that, in my opinion.
You got some out there.
Some.
Like
some, but all though. Like with where we at critical mass, you need all. Yeah. It's good. Like the same way that we all talk about like public safety, because this is a public safety concern. We say it's not the police, it's not the community, it's both. We talking about parents now. So we need to talk about heads of schools too. It has to be principals. It has to be organization. There has to be everybody at the table talking about this issue of public safety. And I know one of the things too that your niece mentioned is, like, she say like 7th, 8th graders when they start talking to children. But statistically, it's been shown that our children start to go off the path in 3rd grade because they've been so undereducated. But by the time that they enter like a 4th grade, they behind already. So now they've lost track of wanting even to be in school. And look, don't get me to tell it, but that's a byproduct of all the things that we got to deal with anyway.
About it takes a village. That's all you saying.
I mean, it's supposed to. It always has. I mean, listen. If we were to really tap into who we are as Africans, that's all we knew. Before we got here to where we at now in America, all we knew was village. And as I told you, I'm adopted. You know what I'm saying? And I always say my love for community comes from the fact that the Jones family, pulled my twin brother and I in and treated us as we were their children. Love, collaboration, unity, everything you want to name that comes from having good stewardship in terms of leaders of the household is what we had gotten from being adopted. And I use that as perspective because a lot of people don't get that. They may not be able to share fond memories of having been adopted, but I do.
Right,
and
right.
and that to me is community. We support one another. We pick each other up where we're down. But at the same time, I did grow up in the 80s, 90s, and people were still able to at least pop you in the mouth. My mama told me, listen, my third grade teacher, Miss Knight, she was able to hit me with one of them. Hey, he acting up. You gotta do what you gotta do. I told you, my Dr. Key math teacher. Oh, you want to play rooters? One of them to the chest. Mr. Marable.
It's just a little different.
Mr. Marable, I mean, it's different. But I'm just saying, though, I still grew up in that era where, one, we had community. We had people that really, and you could get got by somebody that wasn't, your caretaker. Because they had authority over you and you had to respect them. So if you got out of line on the respect side, they was going to check it.
Let's look at this. Where does sports come in to play in all of this? I mean, I don't hear a lot about a lot of different.
That's all we got. But that's all we got, though.
You don't hear a lot about the basketball teams and the wrestling teams and the football team. Here and there.
Well, you know what though? We gotta be honest with ourselves. When I left Miss Jacobs' crib and I saw John Hay. Mm-hmm. John Hay used to be predominantly black, right? Because our community used to be predominantly black. Mm-hmm. But if you go on a lot of these schools, what you gonna see on the field? You're gonna see a soccer field. And what I saw when I passed by there, I saw them people playing soccer. Of course, you're not gonna hear about basketball and football no more in our neighborhoods. They halfway we out of here now. You ain't gonna hear about them. Them people don't play football and basketball like that. They football is with their feet. It's called soccer. You know what I'm saying here? You know what I'm saying? It's called soccer here. It's called football though, but it's called soccer here.
that they built over there is small. It's not exactly.
Yeah, so you're not gonna hear about these people that's, you know what I'm saying, playing. You're gonna have a few of them, but all of those are gonna concentrate into the good schools where they can actually be seen at. They're not gonna be in a neighborhood like this because our neighborhood schools suck. So.
You talking about the feeder schools, huh?
Yeah, that's all of y'all. That's all of y'all.
Man, I mean, we have to take a hold of this somehow. I mean, there's been some good ideas, some good comments, but how do we just literally pick this up piece by piece? It was funny to hear the mayor. Question was, what do we do when we have events at the house and other venues? And the mayor says, just make sure they don't bring guns, because guns gonna be the root to everything.
One thing that I would like to see, I want to see us finally implement a 4-day work week. Stop making people work 5, 6, 7 days to have an affordable living. Give us 4 days, 10 to 12 hours, and have 3 days off. You might have a little bit of difference. We need to, America itself needs to adjust to the climate that we live in. We don't have enough people that got ideas, thoughtful enough ideas in places that's making decisions where we could be like, you know what? Like, because literally we had a point in history where we need a 4-day work week. There's no reason why people shouldn't work 10 to 12 hours. And we could create rotating schedules. We could create schedules that fit the community. I tell you all the time, we need to have somebody that could work between the hours of like 7 to 2, 7 to 3, 8 to 2, 10 to 2, 10 to 3. These organizations that got these violence interrupters and stuff like that, they need to be, and some of them do. So, you know what I'm saying? But all organizations should be available damn near on a 24-hour basis where these kids could go. Everything be closed. They ain't got nowhere to go. I would rip and run the streets too if I was a shorty and I ain't had nowhere to go. Then my community looked the way it looked, and all I got is community-based organizations, but they ain't available to me. Y'all telling me to go to these things between 9 and 5, and I'm a shorty. I got to be in school at least to 4 o'clock. Come on, man, stop playing with me. What's up? What's going on? You know what? Let's do this. So we got attorney Richard Boykin in the bit. You know what? Come over here.
Attorney Commissioner Richard Boykin.
Yes, sir. We ain't got the congressman yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and just bring you on right here.
You can go through that way. Just go. Oh yeah, you can just grab that chair. That's all good.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay. Why is this chair so low?
Grab the larger one.
Yeah. But you got
that's the congressman. Sit down, low down.
All right, we're good.
All right.
How's everybody doing today?
We doing good. How about yourself, Commissioner?
Wonderful.
That's good. Good part. So anyone have any comments to what DeAndre was saying before we go into the next mode?
Hello. That's it. Looks good.
All right.
I'm Jocelyn.
How you
doing?
Coordinator for East Campus.
All right. So, anybody on the Zoom? Y'all want to add to this conversation? We talk about the youth right now. We got the man in the building. Next week, he actually got a youth summit coming up. Right. So he wanted, you know what I mean? So he came in on the right part. So we about to go ahead and get to talking to him if y'all ain't got nothing to say.
Well, let me say this. You know, I used to teach at a school called McKay over in where Dr. King marched at. Mm-hmm. So Latinos and blacks. But the big problem were the girls. The girls would start fights, and they would go over other girls' house. And one time, they set the girls' house on fire.
Oh wow!
You know? And once they had a lady police come over there trying to stop them, and they took her gun.
Wow!
So the girls were worse than the boys.
Oh wow! Nah, we hear you.
Right.
Hear you. But
right. So,
you know,
but in those days, I used to beat my kids. You know, if I tell them to do something, I tell them twice.
You didn't spank them. You just used to beat them.
You know, and I worked over 20 years in the school system, and nobody ever let parents on me. You know.
Yeah, we know.
That's what I'm saying. Different time. Different era.
They like to be
different era. Hey, it's funny that you mentioned that the young ladies was a little bit more rougher than the guys, because it was kind of like, I remember maybe like this girl used to smack me all across my face, man. You know what I mean? And I used to just get so, I couldn't do anything, but I guess that was her way of saying she liked me, though. You know what I mean? It was weird to me, but, you know, I took it for a little bit of time before I had to snap on, hey, you ain't gonna put your hands on me no more. We gotta stop that. But I say that to say this, though. There was a time period, though, especially as it relates to conflict between men, where women would jump in between that. If they saw that conflict was sparking between two guys, let's say we had a party, most women would say, no. And I'm speaking from experience of having an altercation with a guy where women jumped in between the both of us. They took me into the room. They started dancing all over me. I forgot what we was fighting about, and they pulled him away somewhere else. And there's plenty of examples like that where women used to, now they are all savages now. So a lot of savage women out here, man, that hey, like you talking about burning people's houses down, man. A lot of these young women out here, they the ones that got the guns, and they'll lay you down real quick. So it's even that has gotten exacerbated to the point where the women are no longer the peacekeepers, so to speak. Sometimes they're the ones jumping it off.
Right.
Man.
Right.
Sad to say.
Right.
Sad to say. So,
man, you can jump in whenever you want to.
We want to introduce to you Commissioner Attorney Richard Boykin, candidate for Cook County
Board President.
Board President. Had to pause a minute. There's a lot of words today. So what you say there, Commissioner?
Well, let me thank you all very much for having me on. I'm Attorney Richard Boykin, and I'm running for president of the Cook County Board because Cook County is at a crossroads. Gun violence, carjackings, retail thefts, all of these things have combined to terrorize our neighborhoods. Our children are literally dying in the streets, and families aren't getting justice. Look, I will address the root causes of violence in a way that this current administration has not. Look, I think that you have to do something about concentrated poverty. I think that we have to do something to deal with what's happening inside the homes of our people. There's an old African proverb that says that the ruins of a nation begins in the homes of its people. Mm-hmm. We got single parents who are raising their kids. I grew up in a single parent home with 3 siblings in Inglewood. We made it through. We were fortunate. But when I was coming up, it's not nearly as rough as for kids right now. And so I'm very concerned about that. We got to give parents the supports that they need. Through grants to help parents become better parents. We need a mentoring program for our young men who may not have a father in the home. In addition, grandparents raising grandkids, that's a big thing now. Right. And so we got to give them the supports that they need. But look, the other reason is because last year, 90,000 people left Cook County. 90,000, according to the Census Bureau. That's taxpayers leaving, people being pushed out. The highest sales tax in the nation, unfair property taxes. I just left Matson, or some people call it Madison. They pay some of the highest property taxes out there. People talked about Flossmoor, Harvey, Dalton, all of these areas. They pay a lot of property taxes. On the west side, folks pay a lot of property taxes, and sometimes they lose their home if they can't afford to pay it. And so we got to deal with those issues. But at the end of the day, we got to also deal with our youth. Right. Our youth have been forgotten by too many people. They don't feel listened to. And so that's why next week we're holding this summit to salute youth. I want to thank Roman Morrow, who, when I was a county commissioner, brought so many legislative ideas to the forefront. Curfew awareness campaign, making sure that we deal with social media, have a social media task force to deal with violence on social media. A lot of these innovative, creative ideas, they didn't come from me, they came from the constituents. So I believe in a bottoms-up kind of government where you actually have your constituents who are driving legislative policy and ideas. And so I want to thank Roman for his idea to do this town hall next week to celebrate our youth and to listen to them. Look, so often we talk at them, and we don't listen to them. And so a lot of times the reflection of the youth in the streets today is really a reflection of us and what we've done or what we haven't done. A child can't be what a child can't see. Right. And so at the end of the day, I'm running for county board president because, look, I want to make our streets safer. I want to make them safer for our kids growing up, our senior citizens. You ought to be able to sit on the porch without fear of being shot by a drive-by. Our children, they shouldn't fear going to school. We got too many communities that are traumatized by the violence that we've seen take place. Last year, over 1,000 people killed in Cook County, the highest number in 27 years. And quite frankly, 81% of those killed were African Americans. And most of them were young Black men. And so we got to deal with that issue. Look, if you're fortunate to give me the opportunity to serve as your county board president, I promise you this, I will listen to you, I will respect you, and most of all, I'll work my heart out for you day and night. I also participated today in the Greek parade. They celebrated their 200th anniversary of independence. So I participated in that. I was on the north side at churches today. I did 3 churches on the north side. Went out to Matson, had a meeting out there, and now I'm here on the west side. All right. Northwest Austin Council, community organized. That's right. That's right. All right. All right. So anybody have any questions for candidate Richard Boykin?
Yeah. What does the president of the Cook County Board do?
I think that's a great question. So the county government is responsible for the least of these. It's the government for the poorest of the poor of our citizens. So if you don't have health insurance, you can go to the county hospital. You can go to one of our federally qualified health centers and get treatment. We fund the public safety system. So county government does primarily two things: public safety and public health. A little bit of economic development. So we fund the offices of the state's attorney, the sheriff, the clerk of the circuit court, the public defender, probation department, the chief judge, all of these public safety stakeholder offices. We fund those offices. County board's made up of 17 commissioners and one president. And so, when I was on the county board from 2014 to 2018, obviously this issue came up of the regressive soda pop tax. Um, Commissioner Steele was in the hospital at the time, and so she wanted to ram that through. And it was a tie, 8-8. I voted against it initially and led the repeal effort against it once it passed. But she was the deciding vote on that. So very rarely does the president have to cast a vote. But the president's charged with the responsibility of presenting a budget. Budgets represent priorities. President's also responsible for making sure that budget gets passed and shepherded through. President has to provide leadership for the entire board in the areas of public safety and public health. And so, I hope that answers your question. And then the president's also responsible for making sure that those property tax bills go out on time. The buck stops with the president, right? Because we fund the assessor, we fund the board of review, and we fund the treasurer's office. All of these are separately elected officials. There are 11 separately elected officials that we actually fund their budgets, but we also have leverage. And so we have to collaborate with them and make sure that they're doing what they need to do in order to get those property tax bills out on time. And that didn't happen. And because that didn't happen, a lot of school districts, library boards, and municipalities that depend on that revenue won't have it right now.
So I got a question. By the way, you were the first campaign I ever worked on. So yeah, I'm a former candidate myself, 2019, for alderman. And I got my feet wet by actually working on your campaign for first district commissioner. That was my first experience doing some door knocking. Actually, Steve told me about it. And that's how I kind of got my feet wet to kind of, muster up the courage to come up with scripts and go door to door. So, there's that. You wouldn't know that because, you up there, man. But it's all good. It's all good.
I know it now.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So listen, as a 34-year-old, right, and I'm saying this knowing that most other 34-year-olds are not politically engaged, right? They don't care about the political process at all. And the office that you're seeking is a difficult one to for me. Like, let's say if I wanted to go out and tell, hey man, you got to vote for Cook County Board President. My question would be, why should a 34-year-old care about Cook County Board President or people in that age range?
Well, the reason is because it has such a profound impact on your life.
Mm-hmm.
Every resident in Cook County is touched by the county board. Once you're born in Cook County, you have to get a birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
You know where that comes from? The clerk's office. You know who funds the Cook County clerk? Cook County board and the president. If you die, you get a death certificate from the clerk's office. Same thing. If you're sick or you're traumatized and you can't get to a hospital, chances are they may take you to Cook County Health and Hospital System.
That's for sure.
So, everybody is touched by the county. And then, of course, if somebody commits a crime, you got to go through the county court system. Mm-hmm. But you have to also, if you're a juvenile, you go to what we call the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. Mm-hmm. And you're processed through there. But if you're an adult, you go through the Cook County Jail, which is a temporary detention facility for those who are awaiting trial. So I would say to you is that county government touches everybody's life. It is an important position. The current board president has been there for 12 years, 12 years, and things have gotten worse under her leadership. The violence has gotten worse. She doesn't have a plan to deal with our public safety crisis.
Mm.
I have a plan. I put it out maybe 3 weeks ago. It's on my website at richardboykin4cookcounty.com. It's out there, and we're going to be releasing also a public health plan probably within a week to help strengthen the health of our county. Now, in a 6-county region, Cook County had the highest death rate from COVID-19. Cook County. It means that we're less healthy than the other counties surrounding us. DuPage County, Lake County, Will County, McHenry. We're less healthy. And so we got to figure out how is it that we close that gap in terms of health disparities and life expectancy. Did you know if you live in Austin, you can expect to live 30 years less than somebody who lives in Streeterville?
30 years? I thought it was 20. It went up, huh?
It went up. It's 20.
Wow.
It's 30. It's 30. It went up. Yeah. So it's a 30-year life expectancy just based on where you live. And it's only a few miles away.
Right.
Downtown.
Right.
Same for Inglewood.
Right.
Same thing for Inglewood. And so that's why you ought to be concerned about the county board, because it is a position with significant power. It's an $8 billion budget. You're president of the entire county, which is the second largest county in the United States of America, 5.2 million people. But you got to be able to have ideas to help lift people up. We got too much poverty, too many people killing each other. What saddens me and breaks my heart, I was outside that McDonald's the other day where the mass shooting occurred in Chicago and State. They cleaned up the blood. They closed the McDonald's, of course, so you're losing tax revenue. You remember there was a shooting near the Chicago theater. Somebody got killed. They closed the theater down. That means you a loss of tax revenue. So all of these things, look, if the kid who was shot in Millennium Park and killed, his body will have to have an autopsy on it performed by the Cook County medical examiner. Every homicide in Cook County has to have an autopsy performed by the medical examiner, which is your taxpayer dollars. And so when that medical examiner is overwhelmed by all of those deaths, guess what? We're paying the bill for that.
Got to pay that overtime, huh?
And so, yeah, you should be really, really concerned about county government. It is a sleepy form of government. But when I was a county commissioner, it's probably the most active county commissioner known to mankind. People didn't know about the position. But so I got rid of the soda pop tax. I got rid of the tax on feminine hygiene products. There used to be a tax on that women used to have to pay. I thought it was wrong. It's a medical issue. Women shouldn't have to pay it. I banned Cook County law enforcement from choking people when they arrest them. These are the kinds of things that you can do. And then we have these areas called unincorporated Cook County. These are areas that don't belong to a municipality. So the county's responsible for providing for their road maintenance and everything else that goes with respect to folks who are living in unincorporated Cook County.
I didn't hear you touch on.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I just didn't hear you touch on the police, the state police. You talked about the county sheriff. Oh, okay.
Because Mark Leeson.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let me just
All
go
right,
ahead.
then.
So one of the county, from Oak Park, resident Oak Park, Mark Leeson said, please ask Richard Boykin about allocation of police hours in higher shooting locations and times of day of allocations. Then how should the police best time be used and fairly allocated?
So what I would say is this. When I was on the county board, I actually, before I got elected, when I was running, I asked the sheriff, I said, Sheriff, can you police in Chicago? And he said, Rich, Chicago is part of Cook County. Of course I can. My charter says I can police anywhere in Cook County. So I said, when I got elected, I said, Sheriff, we need you to police in Austin. So the sheriff opened the command center in Austin because I wrote him into the budget, right? I passed the budget amendment.
Oh, so you're the reason why they on Chicago Avenue?
Absolutely.
All right.
I am.
So
not only did we get them to do that, but when carjackings hit a peak, they're higher now. But when I was in office, I got the sheriff to actually work with the Oak Park Police to have additional patrol cars positioned as a deterrent from people carjacking.
Mhm.
If you just have the police cars in place at certain locations, people see it, they say, I better not carjack anybody here.
Right.
So, I mean, and now, of course, the sheriff has opened up a command center in River North to sort of help
Yeah, I heard
CPD
about
up there because CPD is shorthanded. A lot of people have
Mhm.
left. The whole defund the police movement has hurt morale in the
Mhm.
police department, and people don't feel appreciated. So they said, man, I'd rather do this job. I'm going to go ahead and retire
Mhm.
and get out of here and do something else. So, I mean, 2 years ago, the county board actually voted to defund. They didn't call it defund.
Mhm.
They call it shifting of resources.
Mhm.
So they shifted 4.5% of the sheriff's budget. He's got an $800 million budget, you all.
Mhm.
So they shifted 4.5% into social programs. I love social programs. I support social programs that work and that are accountable. At the end of the day, I would not rob Peter to pay Paul because that's the wrong approach. You can't do that and then expect the sheriff's police to feel good about that. And
Right.
so what I'll say is this, is that we got to make sure that we don't have a police state. Don't want a police state. Don't want a militarized zone. I'm opposed to the National Guard coming in and, for safety measures, because that's not what they do.
Right.
They're a peacekeeping force. They don't enforce the laws with guns and all of that's a bad result that happened in Ohio, in Kent State,
Absolutely.
when that happened. But let me say this, that the sheriff's police, I think, are a professional police.
Mhm.
I think they do a fine job. They're well trained, and quite frankly, we ought to utilize them where we can.
Right.
I mean, and of course, the sheriff won't come in unless the municipal mayor or the superintendent of police invite him in.
Mhm.
So, for example, if a municipality, and we have over 130 municipalities in Cook County, if one can't afford to do policing, the sheriff's police has to provide that service. So in Harvey, I mean, the sheriff's police was the police department for a long time. In other communities where they can't afford to provide it, sheriff's got to step in and do it.
Well, you know what I want to say, Candidate Boykin?
Yes.
Many people don't know this, but this ain't your first rodeo,
No.
and you got many years. I want to say almost 25 years in politics. Yeah. And maybe you can just dive into that a little bit and tell people a little bit about what you've done over the years.
So thank you for that. I grew up in Inglewood, and I went to CVS, Chicago Vocational High School, and I played football there. Played with a guy named Chris Zorich.
Oh yeah.
I went on to college at Central State University on an athletic scholarship, and then I went off to the University of Dayton School of Law. But while I was in law school, I got a chance to do what is called an LBJ internship, Lyndon Baines Johnson internship with Congressman Bobby Rush. And I spent 3 months on Capitol Hill with him and in his first year of being elected to office. And I was part of his first set of interns, did some good work with great staff of people. And what a great leader Congressman Rush is and has been. And so I worked for him for 3 months, and then I graduated from law school and I became what is called a Congressional Black Caucus Fellow. There are 9 fellows throughout the country, but I worked for Senator Carol Moseley Brown, the first African American female senator. And, we did constituent service work, write letters, meet with constituents, that sort of thing. It was a fun experience, really, really enjoyed the experience. And then once I finished with that, I passed the Illinois bar at the time, and I studied with a lady who's a judge now, Judge Tracy Porter. Who's sitting on the bench now. And we both passed the bar together at the same time. And once I did that, I did some independent contract legal work with the Department of Justice. And then Congressman Davis got elected in '97. He got sworn in. And I actually joined his staff as his legislative director in 97, and I worked with him from 97 to 2006.
Right.
I became his chief of staff, and things worked out really well.
Speak of the congressman. Spoke him up.
Speaking of congressman, yeah.
I spoke him up.
Yeah. Now, I think that was the first time I met you. It was around 2001. You were heading his office in D.C. 2001 or 3 or so. And I remember you vaguely, but I remember your voice, and that's why it all came back. I said, "Yeah." We came to his office, and Congressman Congress wasn't in session, but he was in the city, and you were heading his office in D.C.
Well, I love that guy. Wanted to be at his
How you
Yes,
doing,
sir.
Congressman?
wanted to be at his barbecue today, but I missed the
Yeah, man. Y'all didn't tell us about the barbecue, Congressman. Me and Steve over there, like, I'm a Rotarian with Karen Yarbrough.
I haven't eaten in there. But
Yeah.
It was a backyard.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I know we would have came through.
Definitely.
But
it was good. As a matter of fact, Bill Robinson, one of the best barbecue guys in America. But he also was a great basketball player growing up in Mississippi. He scored 30-some points in one game by halftime.
Wow.
And of course, his school won the championship for black school. So yeah, he was a great basketball player.
so at this time, does anyone have any questions for the candidate, Boykin? Anybody? Somebody?
Somebody can say something.
Go ahead if you have any questions, or maybe you have a question.
You know, I have a question.
Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ella.
I have a question. I have a question.
Wait a minute. Go ahead.
I have a question. You know what?
There's some background. You got a lot of background
I'm
noise.
wondering, being a Cook County,
You got a lot of background noise, Ella. You gotta speak, Ella. You gotta speak closer to the mic. Okay, say it again. Much better. But there's still a little noise.
Okay, being the Cook County commissioner, are you in charge of the expressways and the sheriff police that monitor the expressways as well?
No, the people who are in charge of the expressways are the state police. Those are state police. So anything that happens on those expressways, they're going to be state police. Obviously, the sheriff's police sometimes transverse the expressways to get from point A to point B. But and if there's a crime committed on the state expressway, they can pull you over and issue a ticket. But if there's a gun shooting or something like that on the expressways, then what happens is that the state police have to lead that investigation, and they're responsible for that.
Thanks for that question, Ella. Anybody else got another question? You know what? I'm going to take this time right now. We're at the top of the hour. So, if you haven't been to 5713 West Chicago Avenue, 40 Acres Fresh Market, the site of that black-owned grocery store that's going to be going up sometime around about July, you need to. Why? Fresh fruits and vegetables, tons of vendors, great quality foods that we need in our community. We talking about this lifespan that's about a 30-year gap between Streeterville and Austin. We need to eat better. We eat better, we live better, we think better, we be better. And so we are here at Northwest Austin Council in support of the 40 Acres Fresh Market, and you need to too. So I'm going to play this ad, and I need y'all to get in tune.
Have you been to the Soul City Community Market yet? It's a pop-up grocery store over on the west side of Chicago in the Austin neighborhood. They have local vendors selling fresh fruit, vegetables, meats, prepared foods, and honestly more things than I can even say in this video. What's also pretty cool is they accept link card, and they also match up to $25 of link card purchases. They even have a free photo booth, which honestly I think is a really nice touch. It's over on 5713 West Chicago Avenue, right at the corner of Chicago Avenue and Waller. Click on over to our profile for more info.
All right, y'all. Listen, if you haven't stopped by, make sure you stop by 5713 West Chicago Avenue. Let's show our community that we support one another. Let's bring those dollars back. Let's get some good fruits and vegetables. Stop by and see all the vendors. Again, fresh everything there. Usually there's people that selling meats. You got people that sell peanuts and everything, you know, if you want to get your snack on. And, of course, Jamae Nellum, who used to be a former officer, she has the CBD oil. She got the nice smell good. How you call it? Body oils, man. Listen, stop by. We got to support one another. Let's show each other. Let's show these people that we do that. When we come together, a lot can happen. 10 to 3 on Sundays, 9 to 3 on Saturdays.
That's right. Jamae Nellum, former NAC organizer, also. And still living in the neighborhood.
CD stuff, oil kind of works pretty good.
Oh, CBD?
Well, I went to the health food store yesterday. My cousin owns a health food store.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stopped in there to pick up a little stuff. And he got papers written up and stuff.
About the CBD?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she has this melatonin CBD mix that, man, if you have trouble sleeping, you're going to be knocked right out, because I took it a couple times. So it's all good, for real.
Well, what is it about it that makes it work so good?
Well, I think the CBD is just a health effect, so it really helps you, especially people that's anxious, right? It's really people that may be nervous, right? It really helps settle you. And then obviously, like with melatonin is already a sleep aid that helps you achieve sleep faster, especially if you're a person that toss and turn or like to think a lot. So you just get kind of combining the two, you know. CBD is also good for like if you having joint pains and things like that. That's why a lot of people that might work out, you know, they may smoke after, you know, because the THC usually combines some level of CBD inside, and that's really what you're getting. You're getting the healing factor, so to speak. So it's just, I mean, you know, it's a good product.
But why does it take so long
You
for society to catch up to a lot of things? You know, I was driving down the alley a few minutes ago, and the thought just struck me. Why did it take so long for us to start using plastic garbage cans as opposed to them heavy? And I said, you know, there are a lot of backaches that could have been prevented if somebody had came up with the idea many years ago.
Yeah.
To use the plastic containers rather than big old cans. Lord, I moved a few.
You know, I obviously ideas are meant to be built on, and I think this speaks directly to politics. One of the things that I have such a disdain for politics, though, because it hasn't evolved. Politics haven't evolved. They still haven't figured out, or political figures, so to speak, still haven't figured out how to get younger people involved. They still haven't figured out how to connect with the most marginalized people, the disconnected people, right? And I wanted to actually ask you that question. Like, how do you plan to connect to these people that is the most hardest to reach? Our youth, our middle-aged, our most disconnected, and the most disadvantaged. These people that typically don't care about this process because they really don't understand how it affects them.
Well, that's a good question. And I'll say this. We'll do it in the same way that Congressman Danny Davis does it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he holds more town hall meetings than anybody known to mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody in the Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was a county commissioner, I followed that model and reached out and held town hall meetings, and maybe you get 5 people, maybe you get 10 people there. But, one of the things I love about the congressman is that when I worked for him, I mean, he would meet with anybody, even if you were from his district or not. Most Congress people don't do that. Most Congress people say, is the person from the district? If they're not, or is can the person contribute to my campaign?
Yeah.
It means to contribute.
Yeah.
Congressman Davis doesn't look at it like that. I mean, he'll meet with anybody if he's got time available on his schedule. And I did the same thing as a county commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed second chance, most people didn't care about that population of folks. It's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
one, they couldn't help them in terms of finances, really, or they weren't giving money and stuff. So politicians look at, can you help me financially? Do you got a block of votes?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me an office?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Congressman Davis looked at the need,
Mm-hmm.
that second chance that people returning home had. And so he had the idea and the thought, and he worked with a grassroots group
Mm-hmm.
of folks to actually get it passed. And that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm doing this thing next week, to listen to our children,
Mm-hmm.
to hear from them, because they matter. Look, a lot of the violence that we see, a lot of the curfew that was put in place by the mayor in response to the shooting at Millennium Park. I mean, you got to just ask the youth, what do they think? I mean, what are they seeing? Are they seeing the same thing that we're seeing? And I'm told that most of this violence is being driven by social media.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's been driven by social media. And if that's the case, then it seemed to me that we'd be able to stop it. But so I won't give up on people. I'll continue to reach out, and I'll just try to hit the right issues in terms of elevating people and having a rising tide to lift all boats.
Mm-hmm.
County government should be doing that. It should help to empower the community, especially poor people. And we still see too many pockets of poverty. The disdain that I have for people is that you have places on the west side that were burned out from the '68 riots that haven't been rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
You have places in Lawndale where you had, Sears and Roebuck Company. You had International Harvester. You had a lot of companies there. Copenhagen, the snuff manufacturing company. You had all these jobs there. You had banks there. You had industry.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden, when they left, people who could leave left as well. But those who couldn't were trapped there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to have economic development in those areas. And God knows, I mean, levels of government ought to work together. One of the problems
Talk about it.
is
Jesus Christ.
people work in silos.
Man.
And you can't get problems solved in silos. The constituents expect people to work together.
Right. And then, we take our cues from the people that's supposed to be our leaders, right? Mm-hmm. So if we see y'all and we know how y'all act with each other, how you expect us to act? It's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah, irrespective of personality, whether you like somebody or not, Congressman's got a federal budget. If I'm fortunate, I'll have a county budget of $8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor's got a budget.
Mm-hmm.
The state's got a budget.
Mm-hmm.
How come we can't come together and say, hey, how can we use our budgets together?
Man, that's, oh my God.
To deal with some of the issues.
Yeah.
And if we did that, I think we could empower a lot of communities. And God knows if we cut down on the violence is costing us billions of dollars.
Man, a lot, yeah.
An average gunshot wound to treat at Cook County Hospital to stabilize that person costs $55,000. If a person is shot in the head or they're shot in the back and they have spinal cord injury, that's $1 million case off the bat. Just $1 million just to save their life. And taxpayers got to pay it. If the person doesn't have insurance, if they have insurance, they'll hit those insurance limits, and then the county has to kick in after those limits. But again, if a person's killed, the medical examiner has to do an autopsy. County taxpayers. If they catch the the assailant, then they have to go through the court system. Taxpayers have to pay for that court system, state's attorney's office, the sheriff's police, Cook County Jail. And so if we all work together, though, I think we can solve the problems, and we can unify, and we can help elevate our communities.
See, I don't think we learn enough about people before we elect them. I'm saying, imagine what it would be like if there was no politics and no government. I mean, people who say they, kind of got these feelings about government. Suppose there wasn't no government. Suppose there wasn't no politics. Suppose there wasn't no voting. Suppose people just kind of, whoever was the biggest guy became the leader. The tallest guy or the strongest guy.
Well, you guys already got it, man.
Whoever
Y'all already got it.
whoever could shoot the straight, or whoever could fight the best. Suppose those were the systems. I mean, those were the systems that were used before.
At some point, yeah.
We invented this stuff called people voting and deciding it.
Democracy, right.
And democracy. So whatever is wrong with government, it's our task to try and make it right. And whatever is imperfect, although you probably will never get to perfection.
No.
I'm saying
no
conflicts,
Yeah, we're human because it's human driven.
It's very human,
always,
but you have to make choices.
Always.
I mean, I tell people I like poetry, and I think it's this poem I learned out of love. It said, I got a love for Angeline, but I love Caroline too. So now I can't marry both of them. So what am I going to do? Angeline can cook, and Lord, Caroline can sew. They both intelligent, beautiful women. Which way do I go? So you gotta
make a choice.
You gotta make a choice.
Make a choice.
You're not necessarily going to change either one of them. Because they're both pretty. They're both good looking. They're both intelligent. So politics is just simply making a choice. And if you give up on it, or you say, I'm out of here, I'm gone. Ain't no point in me investing none of my time, energy, and effort in this. Because it ain't going to be no better than what it was or whatever. Then it means that person is giving up.
And somebody else going to make a choice for you.
That's right.
Yeah, that person is giving up. There are a lot of people who don't even know there's an election about to take place. Now, whose fault is that? If there's a fault, I'm saying we like to lay blame.
Yeah.
If people didn't learn to read or don't read, whose fault is that? I mean, I go to the little stores and stuff to buy a newspaper, and they tell me they ain't got no newspaper. And they said they stopped carrying them because there wasn't nobody buying them. They couldn't make no money.
Right.
There's a question from Ella Houston. I don't know if you can see it, Commissioner.
You can see it.
I can. Ella Houston says, speaking on economic development, how does Commissioner Boykin propose to bring companies to the inner city? Well, first, we got to make things safe. You got to make your neighborhood
That's
safe.
for sure.
If you don't make the neighborhood safe, the companies aren't going to come
Mm.
because they can't afford the insurance rates. Because insurance companies won't insure them because they'll look at the data and say, you're likely to be robbed, your workers are likely to be killed.
That's a good point.
And so
That's a good point.
you got to make things safe. Once we make things safe, then you got to use your economic incentives. Remember, I talked about the city incentives, the county incentives, the federal
In-state
incentives, and state incentives. And then you just got to go after. Look, if you make things safe, if people see that there's a market, that people will support them, they will come. Let me give you a prime example. So I live in Oak Park, right? Just across the line. I probably live 2 minutes from Austin, if that. I see more people shopping in Joel on Madison from Austin and in Pete's right there in Oak Park.
And on Roosevelt.
Yeah, and but not just that. But when they want to go to the theater, they go to the one on Lake Street. Right?
Yeah, they do. Yep.
They go to what's that restaurant? Cooper's Hall.
Cooper's Hall? Oh yeah.
They go to Cooper's Hall.
Oh yeah, that's why my young 30 self like to go. Give me a flute. I need that wine flute.
But here's the thing about that. So they're taking their tax dollars from Austin and putting them right into Oak Park. I don't have a problem with it, but you got to build up the community where you live.
Yeah.
Right.
But they don't have those things here.
Yeah.
In Austin.
Yeah.
And so in the absence of that, you're forced to go to get
Right.
the stuff where you can. So you need a full service grocery store right here.
Yeah.
Right. And so you got to make it work. You got to figure out how do you do that? How do you get it? And how do you get the people to support it? Right. The store in Inglewood, the Whole Foods.
Right.
Now, I would go there all the time whenever I'm on the south side, but wouldn't be many people shopping there.
Yeah.
Really?
Because the prices
were still
prices were too high. So those
but couldn't they use people that had link cards could possibly use their link? But I guess they couldn't get
still the prices were out of their
range. $15 steak. You're like, look, man,
nothing for their money.
Right.
So I can't do this.
What the corporation has to do, Whole Foods, owned by Amazon.
Right.
What they have to do is they have to lower those prices.
Right.
In certain neighborhoods.
Got to lose out a little bit of margin. Or they just take out the higher priced foods and put the ones that's more affordable and that's healthier anyway.
Yeah. But no, that's what we got to do. And look, I'm all for bringing economic development because we know that small businesses really are the backbone of communities. They create most of the jobs, and then you got to put young people to work. Young people who are out of school and out of work. Idle hands are a devil's workshop. If you give them something positive to do, chances are they're going to turn out just fine.
But do you think we can do this by bringing in an economic engine at the same time work on safety?
Absolutely.
Because I think safety is the biggest
Trump's
thing.
all.
DeAndre and I, we walked these 40 blocks, and that was the number one thing when we went door to door that everyone said safety was the number one thing on their mind. Although they said they felt relatively safe in Austin, but safety was just the thing in the back of their mind that was just right there. You mentioned insurance companies not being able to insure. I think a lot of redlining is starting to happen again with banks because they're looking at the city, they're looking at the safety, they're looking at it's the property that we tend to have a loan on if it'll be able to sustain.
Some people say we on the bubble again with the housing market because they still, back then it was subprime loans. Now they're doing these long-term mortgages, 20, 30 years, especially in these type of neighborhoods where these people are not able to afford them.
What is happening?
Can we teach that? For example, a lot of people call me for a lot of things, just all the time, like whatever it is. I mean, I hear the BS that people talk in terms of what people do it when they don't do it. Why don't you do more? And why don't you do this?
Right.
And you really don't control anybody else's mind and all that kind of stuff. And so living in the kind of capitalistic society that we live in, I get a lot of people who come to me and they say, Danny, they've taken my house that my grandmama left her.
Mm-hmm.
And I check into it, and grandmama had a reverse mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And the individuals who stand to inherit the property,
Mm-hmm.
grandmama said during her last 5 or 6 years, or 4 or 5 years, I'm going to get what I can out of this
Mm-hmm.
and use it now.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't coming free.
Yeah.
Now, if you inherit it, you got to pay what I stopped paying so I could use it now.
Mhm.
And you know, almost every person who come to me about that,
Wow.
they didn't understand how to reverse mortgage works.
Mm.
And so the business entity then ends up getting, in many instances, something worth maybe $150,000, $200,000 for $20,000
Mm-hmm.
that the previous owner got while they was alive
Mm-hmm.
by not paying the taxes, whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
But now the person got to pay that $20,000. Now they got some worth $200,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Maybe it's because they don't have the money.
And in some instances, they don't have
Yeah.
the money.
Right.
And so the person that worked all their lives to acquire this piece of property,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody else ends up getting it
Little enough.
for a little bit of nothing.
You know, I did want to ask, because when I met you at Nobel Neighbors, I actually, after you had talked, I didn't get a chance to ask you, but I kind of touched on the topic of our seniors and their housing.
Right.
And I know that is a big conversation with, especially with Congressman Day. What's your thought? What are you going to be able to do in that position to help these seniors that are experiencing reverse mortgages? You know, houses being sold because of taxes, and some of those elders are also falling victim to the state as well because they go and get maybe state funded health care or I forgot how Miss
Which one?
no, Mama Cora.
She's
Mama
on the
Cora,
line?
yeah, she on the line. Mama Cora was saying that, you know, some of these elders, when they get like senior housing and things like that, sometimes their house is put up as collateral,
Right.
and they're falling
They go
victim
into
to that
senior
too.
building.
There's just so much victimhood for our seniors in their housing. Like that's what I wanted to ask you at the Nobel Neighbor. So what can you do with that?
So one of the things that happened when I was on the county board is they moved the tax sale date up, which hurt a lot of African Americans and Latinos who own properties. What happens is this. I understand the reverse mortgage, but a lot of people lose their homes because of the tax sale. Because they don't pay the property tax. So somebody comes along and they buy those taxes. And then you have, if they buy them like 3 years in a row, and then they give you an opportunity to redeem them, the bill is so high because you got to pay those 3 years. Plus, you have to pay a fine, late fees and stuff on top of that. And the bill is so much that people normally can't come up with it. So that asset that you worked your whole life for, you wind up losing. Or in many instances, grandmother or mother passes away. She owns a house, and she, you know, her next of kin, the children get the house, but then they don't pay the property taxes for some reason. They think they just have this house that you don't have to pay the taxes on. And so I don't know if it's a matter of education or it's a matter of just, hey, people just are not going to take care of that asset in the same way that their mother took care of it, worked upon it. And so, look, to answer your question is we got to educate our people in our community. We got to let them know that, and we got to put policies in place that don't drive them out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think for seniors, if you keep on, like you got an area that's being gentrified, right? So those taxes are going up. Well, with seniors, you got to make sure that you don't put them in a situation where you push them out. You got to keep them at the same rate, because
like a legacy.
Yeah,
like a legacy.
Their pay is not increasing that much right now. Social Security is not keeping pace with inflation, and so you know they're having to make some difficult choices between paying the mortgage, paying their medicine, or buying food, groceries. And so I'm proud of Dr. Willie Wilson that he's not only did he help save people's homes by paying their taxes on them, but he's also got a food giveaway coming up on Wednesday.
$1 million. Where
he's and a gas giveaway. It's different than the other gas giveaways though. The last 3 he gave people $50 of gas per car. This time he's gonna knock off $2 off every gallon.
Nice.
Gas. So if gas is $5 a gallon, then you're gonna only pay $3, and you can fill it up.
Nice.
For $3, which is good, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, and on the food piece, he's gonna give $25 for everybody who comes through.
Nice.
It's capped at 200,000 at Cermak Foods and Pete's Foods. I think all of them are participating. There's 29 stores throughout, not just Cook County, but some in DuPage and all the way in Aurora.
Wow.
So he's helping a lot of people. But I'm sure those lines will be long. It starts at 9 o'clock. You can go to his Facebook page, Willie Wilson Facebook, if you want to see the list of stores that are participating, and gas stations.
I think Ella had a question again.
So she said, we are now finding that more crime in areas that had no crime before. So what's happening to their insurance? And they still have better resources than us in the inner city. And a 2-parter, she said, are those quality stores going to abandon those areas?
Absolutely not. They're not going to abandon downtown. They won't abandon River North and places like that because they're there. But, violence is like cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't
left unchecked,
yes, sir, it's going to spread.
Yes, sir.
And so that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing the fact that we haven't dealt with it, in a meaningful way. And now you got people who are downtown who are afraid. There was a survey that said that 2/3 of the people in Cook County are afraid or living in fear. People don't want to go downtown like they used to because they're scared. I mean, at nighttime, I'm not going down there unless you got somebody with you. So I refuse to let that dictate my movement, though. I'll go anywhere in the city, anywhere in the county. But she's right. Those people's insurance is going to go up. I mean, the people downtown, their insurance rates will go up because of the violence. And so, we got to figure out how do we deal with it. But, communities like Austin and Lawndale, we pay higher insurance, higher than anybody else.
Right.
Based on these factors.
Car insurance, house insurance, life insurance, you name it. All of our insurance is higher than all of these other areas.
And some people call it a tax on being black. But really, it's a tax basically based on all the factors. But we got to make sure we equalize things. That's why we got to bring safety to all of our neighborhoods, not just to downtown. We can't just be concerned about protecting downtown.
Right.
We got to protect Austin. We got to protect Lawndale. We got to protect Garfield. We got to protect Inglewood. All of our communities and residents deserve to be safe.
Absolutely. So I know you guys had a 7:30. Is that a hard stop, or you gonna be with us to the end? We got 30 more minutes.
I'm gonna let the congressman have the last 30.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna let him have it all to himself. I love the congressman. And since he's here, let me tell you, people can benefit from his wisdom.
Oh, most definitely.
I love the man. I think the world of him, and I've been going since 8 o'clock this morning.
I hear that. Man, that's why I'm around him. Around the older people, that could really teach me some things. I got a lot of questions. I always got questions.
So before he leaves, does anyone have any quick questions or comments?
But I thank you too for your leadership and for your support.
Oh yeah, yes sir. I'll be there at y'all forum that y'all got upcoming. Both of y'all. I'll be there this week.
Yes,
Yeah. Go ahead and let people know.
Well, forums are good, and it's good for people to, forums teach me more and more every day that we need to have ongoing political education.
Absolutely.
And it's not, it's not like there's just some book where you take the book and all of a sudden you know what to do. But it's not also, it's not, many people treat political knowledge like they do sex. That all you got to do is get over them and you know.
I hear that.
And so they miss out a lot on books. That there are some things that you can learn. I mean, and understanding the self-interest business, and then practicing self-interest. I mean, it's painful to watch some of the things that go on and to hear some of the things people say and believe, and there's not an ounce of fact in it, or they have not really taken it.
You gotta do your homework, do your researches.
And so the reason I say you need to know as much about people, if you know people who are filled with a certain level of integrity, who are going to tell you the truth, who are going to make use of the knowledge and skills that they may have developed, and who have a genuine interest in the public interest. Everybody got interest in their personal interest. But the person who asks to be the representative got to have interest in the public interest. And I tell you, one of the real joys of working publicly has been my interaction with Richard Boykin and the years that he worked with me as my chief of staff. If he said he was going to do something, I knew it was going to be done. I didn't have to wonder about it. I didn't have to worry about it. I knew I could just take that to the bank and that was solid. And so I just encourage people to listen, learn, and I hope to hear you at this next forum.
Absolutely.
Before you go, I'm gonna give you the ISO screen so that you could say what you got to say to the folks that's checking you out. It's all on you.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, DeAndre, and Congressman Davis. Thank you. It's always a privilege and an honor and a pleasure to be here at this location. Look, so on Friday, May 27th, we have a forum that we're doing together. It's What's in It for the Youth in Cook County Salute to Youth Summit. It's going to be at the Caron Center for the Arts, 5628 West Washington Boulevard. Starts promptly at 6 o'clock. We encourage all youth to come. It's free. It's open to the public, and everybody's welcome. I'm sure that Roman's going to have some snacks or refreshments there for folks, water and stuff. But we won't have like food because hopefully we're going to get in and get out. But we want to hear from the young people. That's the key. We want to hear from the young people. And so I'm honored to have been on the show. I encourage you to go to my website, check me out. It's up there, Richard Boykin, FortCookCounty.com. I look forward to interacting with you all. If you have any questions for me, you can always inbox me on Facebook, and I will respond and answer those questions. But it's been my joy and honor to be here today. And it's been my joy to serve as a county commissioner from 2014 to 2018. And I pray that you'll give me the opportunity to serve as your president of the Cook County Board. And please,
Sorry,
whatever
I
you
missed
do.
that. Could you say it again, please?
Please, whatever you do, go out and vote.
Technology.
Vote. Thank you so much. God bless everybody.
You had a question, Venus?
I think it's one point.
Yes, I do have a question. I have two of them. One of them is for Richard Boykin. This is Venus Jackson from Nobel Neighbors.
Hey, Venus.
I thank you and I appreciate you for coming to spend your time that you did with at our meeting last month. The whole crowd, they enjoyed you, but they wish they would have had just a little more time with you to, you know, we didn't have none of your literature, you know, to lead them, you know, so they can know more about you. But we knew you had another important meeting supposed to be with Willie Wilson, so that's the reason why you couldn't stay as long as they wanted you to stay. But we needed some literature so we could lead them, you know, with something about you.
Venus,
Okay.
we'll get you some literature. We'll do that.
If I can pick up some, you know, from a location, I can bring it and have it at the next meeting.
Okay. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
We'll make it happen. We'll connect.
All right, Minister.
Thank you so much, everybody. I
Thanks
appreciate
for coming,
everybody.
Commissioner.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your
Yes,
time.
sir.
Everybody. Congressman, you might want to sit in your big chair and have it back.
No, I'm all right.
He's in the big chair.
I'm in good shape right here.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
So, I mean, we're having a pretty good day today.
Oh man, y'all don't
The
need to see my
politics-
mug.
Oh,
Hold
good
on.
to see you again.
Y'all need to see my mug.
Steve,
All right, with that.
Steve, I want to ask the Congress a question.
Sure.
All right, so y'all have a good night. Thank y'all for coming through.
Yeah.
You as well. Have a good night.
So what? Go ahead. He's right here. I'm sure
Oh.
you can hear him very well with the.
Congress, Danny Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been riding through my community, and I see like trailer homes on vacant lots, and then I go down through Tent City on Chicago Avenue, and I see that a lot of people is not there like it were before when we used to go there and offer them research. Are some of these trailers being placed in the community, taking the homeless off the street?
Well, let me just say this in terms of there's a tremendous need for affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the need to do everything that we can do to keep populations and keep people in place. I don't know if everybody have heard the news. People have been talking about we lost population and people have all left. Well, it was just determined
A
by
4%
the federal
undercount.
government
Yep.
that there was an undercount. Now,
4%.
many of us fought against
Yep.
there being an undercount. I rode up and down streets on a bus some weeks, 4 and 5 days. I borrowed it from Cynthia Williams from the Austin People's Action Conference. And we put some water and a loudspeaker on there. And we wrote, being a guy named Willie Burton, a guy named Clayton Boyd, who's out there now. We went all over the community. We also took food boxes and stuff that we stopped. Yeah, we did, and a lot of other people. Donald Dew was the chairman of the West Side Coalition, well, it became a citywide coalition to try to get the census count up. Because we knew that you get money, it's a formula, and you get federal government money just based on the number of people who live in a particular piece of geography.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried. But the Trump administration, and I will say it loud and clear, Garfield used to say loud and clear.
Yeah.
We tried to get them to keep counting people.
Mm-hmm.
They actually changed the
Mhm.
amount of time that we was going to use to take the census.
Mm-hmm.
We said there was going to be an undercount, and there was. It's been certified.
Mm-hmm.
The governor of the state of Illinois called me the other day. I think it was either Thursday or Friday.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, damn, the governor called. He said, well, you know, we just want to make sure that, you know,
We
we're
need our
so
money.
delighted that the state of Illinois did not lose no population,
Mm-hmm.
that we gained a little bit. We didn't lose population. The undercount was about 2.2%.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's money
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for all the people that got left out.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to be able to get that money back for them.
Mhm.
We also got approaches to getting people counted where they live
Mhm.
and not where they were. There are thousands of people, 30-some thousand people in the penitentiary. Most of those folks come from Cook County, state of Illinois. But they've been getting counted at the prison locations where they are.
Mm.
And that's not where they live. That's not their residence. Most of them will get out of jail and come back to 7 community areas in Chicago. That money should be coming to Chicago and not going to Danville or going to Dixon or going to wherever. And many states have figured out a way and have ways of making sure that happens in their state. And we've had state representatives, state legislators who are making that happen. So people use any approach they can use to try to have affordable housing. But all the things that people have been talking about are just as relevant. If a community, I remember when businesses big time started leaving the inner city of Chicago.
Mhm.
I lived in the area where Sears Roebuck was located. And so first, after the riots and the looting and all the things that went on, Sears started using buses to take people to the L station from the store and those other places. And all they had when they got it, walked out the door. And so we said, why are they doing that? You can walk right up there to the train station, Congress train station. They said, well, our people are scared and we don't want them out on the street. And so we just provide transportation. That was the first thing they did. Then after that for a while, they said, well, we just gonna have to move. They first moved the bank.
Mhm.
They said, we just gonna have to move our headquarters downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Because people scared to come out on the west side to work.
Hmm.
So they moved downtown.
You spent more money.
And then they moved out of Chicago altogether. And I think much of that has been part of what took Sears out. They didn't no more Sears.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I think they were just bought out by JCPenney recently.
And Sears was the flagship business of that type. One of my real heroes in America in terms of a philanthropist was the guy that was president of Sears at one time. He really put Sears on the map. The building out there on 47th Street, he built that too.
47th Street?
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah.
Rosenwald building.
47 and what?
47 King Drive.
Oh,
Rosenwald.
you going back at the turn of the century, then, right?
No, it was a little beyond the turn of the century. Actually,
I gotta look it up.
he
I can't picture
also built, along with Booker T. Washington, over 5,000 schools for black folks in the South. And the people went to them. Matter of fact, John Lewis went to one.
Really?
The woman who was the poet laureate in Arkansas, she went to one. What's the name?
The little group?
A rock, a river, and a tree.
Rock, river, and a tree.
That was her thing.
Oh.
That was her poem when Bill Clinton was president. Then she said it at his inauguration.
She's from Arkansas.
Stamps, Arkansas. But she went on to California. But my point is that people are trying to live in these boxcar apartments.
Yeah.
They're trying to live
cargo miniums.
Anything that they can put together, but that ain't gonna really take the place of what is needed.
Yeah.
And that's real serious investment in the building of affordable housing and in ways of helping people acquire.
Now let me ask you, because Steve and I was talking about this, right? And younger people have taken to this idea of the FIRE movement, right? Financial independence, retire early is what it's saying. And the way that they're doing it is they're foregoing these traditional ways of building wealth, which would at some point used to be having a house, having a job that you can invest into so that when you get of retirement age, you can leave and pull from it. And now these people have started to live well below their means, right? So they may have really good jobs, but they make sure that they live minimalistic. They live well below their means, and they have started to invest the money into their own 401ks or mutual funds and retire at 30 something odd years old. And and again, because they don't have a house, they're not tied down. So they're living mobily, or in a tiny home or something, and they live with maybe about off of like 4%. So they take that investment and they make sure that it is covered, inflation proof, so to speak, and they just live off 4% of it. And so when you consider that, especially as more young people determine that that's the way that they want to live, how then does like affordable housing fit into that? How do we match what the future is going to look like now?
But there are a lot of people who want to live now.
Absolutely.
I'm saying, I used to teach some Japanese. I've done a lot of stuff in my life. Lots of it been very interesting. I used to teach some Japanese exchange students. And I discovered during that time that it was so expensive to live in Japan, and that housing was so expensive until many of the young Japanese professionals had to put off getting married and so forth because they couldn't afford to have a place to live. They were college graduate professionals and so forth because housing was so expensive because they don't have no land.
Right.
And alcoholism was becoming a problem because the housing that they could afford didn't have any room to move around in. Like this space where we are might be a Japanese house.
Wow.
Yeah. And that many of them were spending time in the bar. I mean, they actually get off work, they go and sit in the bar and drink whiskey, and were becoming addicted.
Same man, because they didn't want to go on to their little box, huh?
They didn't want to go to their little box.
We got a couple questions, just so we don't get too far. First question was, it was in regards to what you were speaking about, I guess, housing or something. It says, how will that work? How will those resources be determined and distributed? Also, why is it that those that are not legal citizens count against the citizens to determine representation?
That was in reference to census
Oh, census.
and determining that there was an undercount. So how do they determine if there's an undercount? How do they make that the official determination of an undercount is legal, and therefore the state of Illinois should have more funding? How will that funding be distributed? Who determines the distribution of those funding? And then why is it that people who are not legal citizens are counted against those that are citizens? So that would mean if I'm from Africa and 10 of my family members from Africa living in my house, they're not legal citizens, but when they do the census, they count.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's time to determine how many representatives and how many senators we have in certain areas, those people are included in that count. So, you know, some of it is a little interesting to me, but I just want to go out there.
But that don't mean they ain't here. All the count is saying is that you here.
Mm-hmm.
You exist, no matter whether you're a citizen or not. You're here, and all you're doing is counting who is here. You're not saying anything else. We're not saying that you can vote. You're entitled to certain things. Some things you are. But all it's really, the main thing it's saying is that you exist.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you come from wherever or whatever, you're here.
I think the most important part about that question, though, is, for example, with the Latinx community and a large amount of them being undocumented, right?
But you're here.
But they're here. But that also means that if they are here, doesn't that mean they get a larger allocation of dollars based on those numbers as well as representation?
You getting them? You just get, yeah. You get.
But they won't vote. I get what you're saying, but I mean, but does that not matter for the balance of power?
What matters is that you get your allocation of resources
Mm-hmm.
based on presence,
Mm-hmm.
and you're here.
We'll agree with that. I agree that if you are here and you're in a community, the community
and there are certain
needs
things we say you get if you're here. If you get sick, we'll take care of you.
Count representation.
We're not gonna let you die
Right.
if you get sick and you're here.
Right. And we should do that. But also the flip side is, we count them for resources, but it's not necessarily fair to count them for representation in the Senate and the Congress. It's not fair because they can't even vote. They don't vote. And not that I'm against them voting, but if they can vote, become a legal citizen, I'm good with that. I think we need resources, just like I think the biggest thing that was accomplished was that they were able to get some form of card to represent their social security numbers so they can get driver's license and insurance. I think that's awesome. But when it counts against citizens and the number of representation, like we just went through this battle with this mapping, it's first of all, if we just counted the citizens, would that have been a different outcome? Would that even have come up? So that's my thing. How do we draw the line? Because there should be some lines drawn here as far as
they are.
Yep, we need resources for them, but they should not be able to be counted towards representation. That's just not fair for people who are actually here and can't hardly get no resources in their community. We got African American communities has been begging for resources, and we keep getting looked over, turned over, ignored, criminalized, everything. Then now we have this Latinx immigrant population. Everybody can come here and be counted except us. So I have a problem with that, and I don't mean to go down that road because I do respect our system, but our system only works for some people.
But they let African immigrants here also. They African immigrants come here and they go through the same process of applying for citizenship if they decide that's what they want to do. And some countries you can have dual citizenship. And so you can have citizenship in your country of origin, and you can have citizenship in your adopted country, in the United States as well. I happen to believe in what I call comprehensive immigration policy, and that the people who are allowed into the country, well, the real deal is that everybody other than Native Americans are immigrants, except the people born here. Yeah, everybody else is an immigrant, and every group have had to fight their way into the mainstream of. I watched the movie last night. Went to sleep on it, of course. But
Americans, we were involuntary immigrants. We came here. We helped build this country. We helped build every fabric of this nation in every sense of the word, from then to now. And if I've applied for the same business loans as an African immigrant, as an Arab immigrant, as an Asian immigrant, I'm getting turned down or getting a 59% interest rate for $10,000. So my challenge is, how do we battle this? What do we do? Because we keep winding up being at the bottom of the total pool for resources and representation.
I'm not sure that I would necessarily say that the African immigrant is treated better than Negro heritage individuals.
I like that term.
real smooth.
Well, because I think,
all right.
yeah, I think racism and you know, white supremacy, I think that is heaped upon that group as well. And of course, it took years and years and years for Africans in Africa to gain a level of control, even though they were the big majority population.
Yeah, it did.
And changed the names of countries and saying Rhodesia.
It did.
And you know, then South Africa and different.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same.
I want to ask a question.
Let me get this question that Velda Bruner had. She wanted to know, she says, when will we start seeing more candidate signs on the residential streets and not just on the main streets? I think they're already doing it, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I think that
for the people that support you.
I think here's what happened. I think that people be looking at their resources and they just figure that there's more visibility in terms of people traveling main streets than people traveling residential streets. And I think the administration often determines Now, it's really, there are only certain places you're supposed to put political signs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see what's fair for the goose, it's fair for the gander. And if people who are at the top of the ticket, if their signs can be places, then other people's signs
That's for sure.
should be in those same places.
That's for sure.
Um,
That's for sure.
I love seeing the signs. I just don't like to see them raggedly done.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Because I think the sign is an expression that people are interested. And no matter what you say, there are too many people who are not interested.
Yeah. There are.
I mean, you can argue anything what is legal is what the lawmakers say is legal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying what is legal ultimately in this country is what the Supreme Court says is legal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care how illegal it has been or how different when they say it is legal. I don't care how right it is. Legal don't always mean right.
Mm-hmm. True indeed.
Legal means what the lawmakers say is legal.
True indeed.
And so if abortions have been legal and the Supreme Court say they ain't legal no more, they ain't gonna be legal no more.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they have been legal.
But a lot of states, Illinois, for example, have already been gearing up for this, and they've written into their own documentation, their legal documentation, the ability to give states' rights, right? So when we talk about the Supreme Court, and we know that's the highest court in all the land, what then matters as it relates to legality?
But changing now the ultimate in terms of legality in this country is if you want to change something that the Supreme Court has decreed to be one way,
Mm-hmm.
how can you change it? You can only change it by referendum.
Mm-hmm.
That is, now all the people get a chance to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, each state has a state constitution.
Mm-hmm.
If the state constitution has guarantees, and that's what we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what some states who wanted to say, this is what we have said, this we are going to change, this we're going to allow people to make decisions about their health, and if they want to feel that it's necessary or decide they want to have a termination of a pregnancy by abortion, they are legally able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody got different feelings about the abortion piece. And there are those who simply say, in order to protect the rights of everybody to make their determination, if you say you give a person the right to choose, that only a woman and her doctor should determine or have the right. That's my feeling. That's my position. That only looking at their well-being, their health, what they want,
Right.
what they decide. I think that should be locked in, and that nobody else should be able to say, no, you can't, and yes, you can.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope conversation. I'm with you.
So
People should have governance over their own body. I do want to make sure, though. This question was asked to me last week as it related to the census, and then we were talking about incarcerated individuals and their ability to be counted. Because if you truly were to count the countless Black men and women that are incarcerated, our communities would get more than their fair share of the resources. So how does that happen? Is there anything in place now where the people from these areas that are incarcerated are counted here?
There are several states
Okay.
that have put in place.
Okay.
New York kind of seriously led the way
Mm-hmm.
to protect that. Let's say in Illinois, we have 30-some thousand people in state prison.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that more than half of those come from Cook County.
Mm-hmm.
I want those people's resources, and I want their place of residence to be the county where they live,
Mm-hmm.
not the prison that they have been sent to
Mhm.
as a holding
Right.
place.
Right. As it exists, though, right now, that's what happens, right? They're counted where they are.
Illinois had some procedures in place as well as a number of these other states.
Mhm.
I don't have all of the states, but I know that New York is a premier one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look that up.
Okay. Yeah, that was asked to me, and I didn't.
I'll look it up and get the actual one.
Oh yeah. Thank you for that. Because
I used to know, because I used to be chairman of the subcommittee in government reform
Mm-hmm.
that had jurisdiction over that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, jurisdiction just means that you're the lead worker on the kid. Don't mean whatever you say
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order for something to go, there are 4 different entities that's part of the go.
Mm-hmm.
That's the House, the Senate,
Mm-hmm.
the Supreme Court, and the President.
Mm-hmm.
It's all 4 of those gotta be in agreement for something to really be the law of the land.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, really quick,
Appreciate
Dr. Orr had a comment. She said, but the medical treatment for African American is subpar and biased. So I don't know what question that was.
That's a fact. I mean, I don't think it's a question. I think that is a fact. Not only the medical treatment, there are all kind of treatments in this country. I mean, that's why people don't want to talk about what we've been taught in school. People lie to us in school.
To our faces.
I mean, people who were laid out to be heroes in our school are now being viewed as traitors. I mean, so when you talk the real talk, how could a guy who was a hero now be a traitor unless we are accurately depicting what they did and who they were? And that's why learning. I mean, learning.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, there are people, and even when I hear about what young people can do and don't do, do you know that half the officers in the Confederacy probably wasn't no more than about 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them guys who were colonels and majors and captains, and they used to joke about Kentucky. They say everybody in Kentucky was a colonel that was in the army.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and when you didn't have seasoned older people to serve in certain positions of leadership, you just Alexander the Great,
Right.
was supposed to have been
20 what?
19
19.
years old.
I can say 26.
He was
19.
the greatest
Yeah.
general, and he supposedly had
Conquered the world,
everything
the known
there
world.
was to conquer,
Right.
and sat down and cried because there wasn't nothing else to conquer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have to be old as Hector to do things. I mean, Augustus A. Shoto was 14 years old when he led the expedition that founded the city of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did he manage to do it? His daddy was the leader of the expedition.
Right.
His daddy got hurt and couldn't lead no more. You have no cars to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And all that kind of wheelchairs and all that stuff throughout the forests and woods.
Mm-hmm.
But the men could not agree. They were so controversial with each other, didn't like each other. So they couldn't agree on another man to be the leader.
Mm-hmm.
So they named young Augustus to be the leader. He was 14. They made him the leader. And then when it got time for them to name what they had founded,
Right.
supposedly the reason they named it St. Louis, because they all agreed that they could go along with St. Louis, who was the patron saint. And they agreed on that. But they had argued about what they were going to name, and that's like many organizations.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll
Tell me
meet
about it.
all night.
Man.
You can't agree on that. Say, come back tomorrow. Let's meet. Let's table that till next week.
Well, we got a couple of comments here. So someone said, actually it was Debbie. She said, because of the Supreme Court changes, changes with Roe versus Wade, we must pay attention to who we put in as judges, for example, the Illinois Appellate Courts. Also, Dr. Orr said, so Sally may be granted an abortion and Rashida may not.
But I think the point on who we put in as judges, now most people who end up on the Supreme Court, they've been on something else before that. Now, you do know that Trump would put these people in as federal judges who never even been to court. So I'm saying the most ridiculous stuff that you could imagine is somebody becoming a federal judge who never tried a case.
Wow.
Or who never ruled on a case. And all of that. And yet there are millions of people who voted for this gentleman. And those were the kind of decisions he was making. And they still support him. And they still think he's the best thing since sliced bread.
Well, that's just the ignorance of America, though. America has constantly showed itself to be
70-some million people.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think we bottom of the barrel in everything except military spending. You know what I mean? America has really shown itself to be pompous and arrogant, full of hubris, and dumb.
But what we're not doing is we are not teaching our people the ways that people who think that way are indoctrinating their people.
Right, that's true.
I'm saying, you know, I've been in hotels and you see a bunch of folks in there discussing and doing, and you look and it's a room full of young non-African Americans being taught their political position. And I'm talking about 300-400 at a pop. And so you're just curious. You're hearing
Stick your head in. Let me see what these people
you're
talking
hearing
about.
the clapping and
Yeah.
then you inquire.
Yeah.
And say, who's that? That's the so and so Republican.
The young Republicans. The young, you know what I mean? Nah, but that's just going to the point of like the 18-year-old that, you know, was saying that he saw a manifesto or something. It was racist. And he went out there and shot those 10 black people up. Consistently, like, we, as black people, we're the fools that if we could sit here and think that racism is going to be gone in any of our lifetimes.
But he was mentally ill.
Man, listen, man. Look, all right. Yeah, all right. Everybody mentally ill when it comes to shooting up a gang of black people. Every time, man.
But you have to defend yourself. I'm saying the only way you beat the opposition is your team
gotta teach
faster
yeah
than they are. You're playing football. The only way you beat the other team, you got to score more touchdowns than they do.
True indeed.
Or you gotta block more than they block. I'm saying you gotta do more and talk about it.
That's offended. That's right.
You're right. You gotta be able to do it. We are not doing nearly enough.
Man, not. Yeah, we not.
Our people, and we're not teaching the children. About their past. About their history. We're not helping them to really understand slavery. And what it did, and that we think we're so far away from it that this could never happen again. There were people who probably thought we were so far advanced with Roe versus Wade that we didn't have to worry about that. That wasn't going to become an issue. All I'm really saying is that we have to protect the gains that we have made and hold on to them while we try and advance.
Yeah. You got any more questions? I want to make sure that I start.
No more questions. Anyone else have any comments, questions? Or what have you?
All right, y'all. So listen, y'all already know how we do. We go from 6 to 8, man.
I got a comment.
What? Hold on. We about to go ahead and I'm about to go around the room and let y'all go ahead and do y'all thing. I know, like in that wrapping up phase, we like to go around the room anyway. But I just wanted to make my little disclaimer. You know, we do this from 6 to 8 every Sunday. You know what I mean? Various ways of interacting with the show. We got the Zoom, the Facebook, the YouTube. If you're on the Facebook or the YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you share the content. Let's get this growing even larger than it already has. And if you comment, then we could put it directly into the show so that you can have a voice as well. Now, I want to go ahead and go to the Zoom and start to wrap up with some final thoughts.
Okay, Dr. Orr, you had a comment?
Hello? Yes, I just wanted to say thank you, Congressman Danny Davis. You know, you've been in service a long, long time, and I've worked with you on some occasions, and I know that you do everything you can to do what you can while you can. So I want to commend you for taking the time out to spend time with the community and talk to us, help us better understand the process. So thank you so much. Thank you to each person that's here, and Northwest Austin Council for putting this on.
And thank you. Thank you so very much.
All right. Arnold, you had a comment?
Hey, hello everyone there. Hello, Congressman. Enjoyed the event, and I know it was real successful. So kudos to you and Miss Davis.
Thank
But
you.
just want to remind the coalition members that's listening in, as well as the three there, we're gonna start the endorsement conversation this Thursday night. So if you haven't got the text or the email, I'll make sure you get it so we can formalize our slating for the upcoming election.
And we're gonna have in-house
No, virtual.
Okay. All right, got it. Tiny, you got a comment or question?
Yeah, I would just like to invite everybody to our appreciation for Daddy Davis event June 5th, and you can ask any peacemaker about getting a ticket.
All right. Brother Bruno just said, thanks everyone. I got to jump off, and I still need signs. So, signs for Velda. Miss Jacobs, anything you need to add?
We got you, Velda.
Miss Jake, okay. Tamika, you've been quiet today. What you say?
Just hanging out, listening, and enjoying the conversation, keeping me abreast of everything that's going on in the community. I appreciate it.
Will do. We need to do a little more, but we're going to make it happen.
Remember, each one teach one. Tell somebody something that they don't know.
That's right.
All the time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Houston, you got anything in conclusion? Let me see how you come through this time. Go ahead. Miss Houston.
No, I think I said enough. I'm writing. Everything is messed up on my end, so I had to go to Facebook.
Yeah, you sound good now. Everything's coming through pretty good.
So,
but you still on.
I did enjoy this session.
All right. We appreciate you coming on. All right. Who's next? Who's got something to say as we conclude? Barry Corin. Time has changed.
Hey guys, good conversation. Thank you for your dedication. And my concern is that abortion is just the beginning of where the Republican Party is going. And my hope is that the Democratic Party will help galvanize a strong message that would defend our democracy. Because the right to vote, and lots of other things people gain origin.
All right, Barry, you kind of jumping in and out at the end a little bit, but we got your point. Appreciate you. Let's see who else we have here. Somebody up with the iPhone. I don't know who it is, but they had a hand up.
Bye, Venus.
No, that's not Venus. Go ahead. Oh, that was Arnold. Arnold, we already got you. I think we almost through the roster. Other people kind of jumped off. Miss J, Ella said what she had to say. Tiny said something. Dr. O, we running through. We at 8:25. How about you, Combs?
Well, yeah, for anybody who knew Dan Cantrell, who was the guy who developed the Miles Square Health Center practically, we are having a memorial service for him on Thursday from 12 to 2 at the Miles Square Health Center at 1900 West Roosevelt Road. When Dan started with the center, they were in a 2-story house. It's in a $20 million building so you won't have any trouble finding if you go down Roosevelt Road.
Mile Square.
That's on Thursday from 12 to 2. And thanks to all the folks that I saw out at Karen Yabra's home. And we've had a wonderful day.
All right. I just want to say thank you to everybody that came on today. We had a really nice crowd. I know we had quite a few people on the YouTube and the Facebook pages also. I'd like to thank Commissioner, Attorney, and candidate for City Board President, Richard Boykin, for coming out, Congressman Davis, and don't forget the 50th year anniversary, and I hope you're listening out there, Miss O'Connor, not O'Connor, Miss what is that? Connor, Miss Connor. That we need to get together so we can have our meeting and get this stuff solidified.
Can I show one thing I forgot, and that is to say, I'm not going to lose friendship with anybody over these elections. Support whoever you decide you're going to support. And if you're supporting somebody and I ain't supporting that person, that's quite all right. That's your business. That's what people in America should be able to do. I ain't losing friendship with anybody over these elections. People who were my friends before the election gonna be my friends after the election. If they ain't, it ain't gonna be because I decided I didn't like them no more.
All right, so listen, I want to bring attention to two forums that's coming up here in the Austin community. On Tuesday, we'll be at the Amberg Hall, 1150 North LeClaire? No. Lamont, 1150 North Lamont. And that'll be for the 7th Congressional District Forum, Candidates Forum. So we'll have all of the candidates there. I believe that'll be from 6 to 8. And then that's Tuesday. And then Friday, we'll be at the Caron Center. And that is, don't give me the line, but 5620 West Washington. And that will be the Cook County Board President candidates race. And that, again, will also be from 6 to 8. Don't know if it's hybrid. I apologize in advance. I didn't put these together, but I will attend them where I'm able to. As you should too. The congressman talked about our education, and we are sorely lacking in a lot of ways. And so one of the ways that we can become more familiar with the people that want to represent us is to show up at minimum and hear what they have to say so that we can go and tell somebody else that this person needs to be selected because they have the best options for our community. Each one teach one. That's right. That being said, again, every Sunday from 6 to 8, you can tune in with us. You know, various ways of interacting with the show, obviously Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. So nobody is left out and everybody is involved. And with that, listen, we got a lot of seats open at the table. All we're trying to do is welcome y'all on home. Thank you for allowing us to welcome you to Northwest Austin Council. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, all.
Good night. God bless.